budgets. I will give you something on this show, okay, in line with what you want. But when we win, we will take our time, and the most important position that we pick will be finance and budget director. And we'll do that in the open forum up in council chambers. We will not cut aid to entrepreneurship. That's Nancy Jerkowitz in the Department of Economic Development. We will increase that by $1 million to $2 to $3 million. So we will not cut aid going to the Department of Economic Development, which will be our Department of Commerce, which will create jobs. Jobs that Flint people will own the business and pass out the jobs. We will not cut the Detective Bureau. We will beef up the Detective Bureau, even if it's at the expense of some other areas. We will not cut garbage pickup. Garbage will be picked up. I mean, these are some easy things to say, but an intelligent mayoral candidate will say, once we get in there and assess the deficit and see specifically what's going on, then we'll give you specific things. But I didn't want to sound like a politician and evade your question. I can tell you sitting right here today on things that we will increase and not cut. But I'm here to tell you, I think when that firm out of Lansing gets done, it will be a different figure than 14 million. The lawsuits, particularly the one that Dean Yotis and the sewer lawsuit, it must be paid. So 14, 24 million, but that won't come out the general fund. That lawsuit will be paid out of the sewer fund. It won't really affect, in my opinion, the general fund deficit.
Now let's talk, you talked about jobs and you're going to create a Department of Commerce. These are very tough economic times and it's been going on in Flint for a while. What strategies are you going to bring with your administration that is going to bring in job creation outside of this department, and what industries are you going to focus on?
Would you agree, KESHA, that the last 6 months as we sit here today has been some of the toughest economic times that you've seen?
Certainly.
But did you know that $20 million was transferred to Uptown Reinvestment to buy the Character Inn, the Hyatt Regency, in the middle of these tough times? You knew that.
I knew that.
My point is this. In Flint, I don't care how tough the times is, we have the Mott Foundation. I stood and talked to Ridgway White. Ridgway White is the son of Bill White. Bill White is the head of the Mott Foundation. Most of the viewers don't know that when that $20 million was transferred from the Mott Foundation to Uptown Reinvestment, it was from father to son. This is a community of relationships. People don't know that I stood in the hallway of City Hall and talked to Ridgway White about what we're talking about on this show. You can put a proposal to the Mott Foundation, according to him, on notebook paper. If the concept is sound and it's a good business proposal, it can be made to happen. Charles Stewart Mott said to the Mott Foundation, stay here and take care of Flint. In addition to that, you heard earlier that I will take money from the general fund and put it into the Department of Economic Development with Nancy Jerkowitz and them, who I'll keep her around for a minute. Never's been done before. We can create bottled water companies, get the machines, the buildings. We producing 4 million bottles of water. Everybody drinking it, running out, getting some more. I used to produce a dishwashing liquid. I mixed it up like Kool-Aid. It was on the shelf in all 24 Hamilton Brothers and 40 other stores. I kept a pocket full of money. People didn't know it. I had a soap company, not a dope company. Nice, clean business in my garage. People didn't even know I was making soap. So I know how to make soap. We can do bottled water. We can do toilet paper. Stuff that everybody uses in every household. They run out and get some more. What we're lacking in Flint is leadership. I'm going to make these candidates quit talking about just streets and grass and police. I'm going to force this campaign to talk about entrepreneurship. putting Flint people in business. I don't need people to come in and help us. We can help ourselves. That's the short version.
Okay, well, you said police. Let's talk a little bit about crime. There has obviously been a lot of layoffs in the police department and the fire department with these tough economic times. How do you plan to make the city safer up against this lingering budget deficit?
Ain't that funny? The minute you talk about police, we hear that siren in the background. I mean, God is in the middle of this thing. It's important to understand, honestly, that when most politicians and local politicians, mayors and council people, when they talk to the community about police, they talk about patrol bureau. The officers, usually you call the police, they show up after the fact. When something happened, you call them. Sometimes they'll be there when a fight jump out, but usually patrol officers come after the fact. They take a complaint. Look at it this way. In Flint, if you got 100 patrol officers and they take 3 complaints a day, that's 300 complaints going into a detective bureau that might only have 10 or 20 detectives. So detectives are overwhelmed. They can't keep up. No politician, city council, or mayor has made it a priority to beef up the detective bureau. Last time we checked, we take in 14,000 complaints, and we checked and it was 3,000 of them stacked up, identifying the bad guys, the suspect, but they wasn't being processed because the detectives are overburdened. You got homicide detectives, you got B&E detectives, you got all kind of detectives, but they can't keep up. Some of the bad guys are in the stack 10 and 20 times, just waiting to be taken off the street. And they so bad that when nothing happen to them, next thing you know, they kill somebody. That's when we get them. So what we're going to do, Mayor Mays, might as well get used to it. Mayor Mays, the Mays administration understands and knows that you must beef up the detective bureau. All this attention to the patrol bureau has been politics. Beef up the detective bureau. Go through that stack of complaints. Get all the bad guys situated, and then we can have a better community. I can tell you case after case, Green Whitlow and his wife. We had already identified those suspects, and they were in the stack. We must get that stack down. You'll hear me talk about the detective bureau more than the patrol bureau. That's where our bottleneck is at. We must fix it.
Now, as far as education goes in this city, the school board is facing some really challenging times right now. If you're elected, will your administration collaborate with the school board, and if so, how?
Yeah, today I think that they were recording this. What's today? I think March the 27th.
Yes.
The last couple weeks I've been in the school board meetings. I've seen a couple of the other candidates there, but they didn't stay long. I spoke a couple of times, and now I read in today's paper that my statement as it relates to the school board made the paper. The Mays administration, what we're saying, we're looking at the schools that they're proposing to close. Right now it's Anderson, Garfield, Civic Park, Merle, and Stewart. We have looked at those facilities. We're very interested in taking money from our general fund. It'll be almost 100,000. It'll be less than 100,000. Merle, for example, 43,000 or so for gas, 38,000 or so for electric, 11,000 for water bill. So for under $100,000, we are proposing to the school board to let us lease that from you for $1 or whatever price. Keep it open, and it will be a community center. That's why I've got Antonio Smith and Leon Derricks as my new Office of Youth Services. We will keep some schools open, use them as community centers, collaborate with the Flint board in any way they want to with those buildings and facilities, and then we will team up in partnership not only with Flint schools but with a super after-school program called Bridges to the Future. Bridges to the Future have not had the city of Flint as a partner, and particularly in the last administration, and we plan the partnership. when you understand that the community we serve is a